welcome back to Cruising as Crew. My name is Lucy, and we are here with Anisha. So this is the first interview in a long, long time, but you guys have been asking for it, and I want to give the people what they want. So we're here with Anisha today. She's going to tell us all about her job on board cruise ships. So yeah, let's get started. So hello, Anisha. Welcome to Cruising as Crew.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to find out all about you. So, how did you get into working on cruise ships?
Okay, so I had watched a lot of YouTube videos about it when I was younger, and I was so excited to start my journey, with cruise ships and everything. So I studied business in hotel management, and then I had just spent 5 or so years just applying for cruise ships, trying to get a job and everything. It was difficult, but I ended up eventually being able to get a job.
Okay, all right. So 5 years, that's quite a while. So persistence is key in this case, right?
Definitely, definitely. I received so many rejection letters and everything, but you just have to keep trying because if you know this is for you, you just carry on and it will eventually work out in the end.
Okay, so did you apply for multiple different cruise lines and multiple different positions?
Yes. So I started out applying in housekeeping because I thought that was the easiest way that I could get on board. That's what everybody was saying. Just apply for whatever you're not interested in, and then you can always do a department transfer. But still, I was being told no, and that I didn't have the experience and everything. And then I just tried to apply different things until one day I just eventually decided, you know what? Let me apply for guest services. At first, it was difficult because I don't speak multiple languages, and that's what most of the European ships need. But I kept on trying when eventually, after about 5 years and flying around the country for interviews with different agencies, being told no, I eventually managed to get a job.
Wow, okay. So as you said, you're working in guest services, right?
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Okay, okay. And how long have you been doing that job for?
So I have been working guest services for about 4 years now. I actually started working the month before the pandemic. So yeah, it's been about four
Hang
years.
on. So you spent 5 years trying to get a job. You finally get a job on a cruise ship, and then a month later, COVID
I'm
strikes.
yeah, exactly. And then I was stuck on board for some time trying to get home because, it was difficult with the travel operations and everything. But the company that I work for, they took care of us. So made it home safely, still had my job the following year. So I'm very happy and excited about
Wow,
that.
that is oh my God. Can you tell us a little bit about your day duties working in guest services?
Okay, so on average, we work about 10 or so hours on average, but it depends on the day today. So I'm just going to give you a typical day, like a C day, for
Okay.
example. So let's say I would start the morning by doing a 4 hour shift or the afternoon, depending on what shift I worked the previous night. If I worked at midnight, that means I'll be working maybe from 12 o'clock or from 9 o'clock in the morning or 12 in the afternoon. But let's say I didn't work at midnight the previous shift. So my first shift would usually be between 8 and 12, and then I have time to eat and rest, and then I work again for another 4 hours. And then, depending on the operations of the ship that day, we have a lot of other duties that we do. So, because I work in guest services, most of it is obviously guest facing, customer facing. So, I'll be at the desk or on the phones, assisting with guest queries, complaints, and those type of things. But then a lot of people don't know that guest services isn't just being a glorified receptionist. We do so much more. We're not just standing there smiling all the time, answering the phone. We do a lot of things that support the operations of the ship. So when we're not scheduled at the desk, we're actually working the back office trying to support that operation. So that's why I say on average about 10 hours on a sea day. If it's embarkation day, then you're just praying. That's it. You're just praying. You have no life, you just pray. And then on port days, it's generally a lot easier for us because everybody's off the ship. And then we work maybe 6 to 8 hours, depending on the port day and the time we'll be leaving the port.
Okay, so you do get time off to go out in port and explore the places that the cruise ship's going then?
Definitely. We get a lot of time to get off and we get a fair schedule. So if you're not able to get off at one port, you're able to get off at the other port just to allow your colleagues to be able to also go out and enjoy. And you get a lot of off time. You just have to know how to manage it.
Yes. Yeah, it's very easy to, what's the word? To overdo it and then you come back
Exactly.
and you have to work a night shift and you're like half dead.
Exactly. But it's all worth it in the end.
What were your first impressions of ship life when you first got on board?
It was, I mean, it was insane. I was a little bit scared because it was a completely different environment and you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
What I noticed, it's like being at a college, but like being in Las Vegas because everybody's drinking, partying, having a good time, and then within a few hours, going back to work. So for me, I was like, but how do you not rest? How do you, well, you just went out the whole night? Like I've seen people drink the whole night until 6 o'clock in the morning and start their shift at 7 and still be fine. And I'm like, how? How? So I think that for me was, it was interesting.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I used to do that when I started on cruise ships back when I was like 19, 20. But
Yeah.
definitely into my later years of being on cruise ships, I was like, I have no idea how I used to do that. Because I used to work a 12-hour shift, go to the gym, go out to crew bar until like 5, 6 a.m., have 2 hours sleep, and then get up and do a 12-hour shift. And I was like, how in God's name?
Like I don't drink alcohol, but I still used to do the same thing, go out all hours of the night and then just start my shift, shower and start my shift. But still, I was so drained. So I can just imagine how people used to be so hungover and everything.
Yeah, especially it's awful. Well, you don't drink, which is amazing, by the way. Um, but to be hungover and seasick is
It's the worst.
possibly one of the worst things ever. And speaking of, obviously, crew parties are known for being pretty good.
Well, I go to a few crew parties, but I think the most memorable one for me was my first ever crew party.
Okay.
And I remember it was our first time at a guest nightclub because usually we have the parties in crew bar. So we went to the guest nightclub and it was just interacting with different nationalities, seeing that the way they dance and speak and interact with each other. So that for me was quite memorable because I don't know how to dance at all. I don't know how to dance. And then I remember the first person that asked me to dance was someone that was Latino. So you know how they dance and they shake and everything. And I was I was humbled on the dance floor. Let me just put it like that. It was a very humbling feeling, but that was my most memorable one because I had so much fun. I didn't care. I just had so much fun, and yeah, it's all about those experiences, finding something so small, and
Yeah.
and that would
No,
change your.
absolutely. It's wonderful. But I'm the same. I mean, when I was on Virgin, a lot of the crew were Latino, and they're not all. I can't just paint everyone, but most of
Yeah,
them know how to dance. So
exactly.
exactly like you, if I was asked to dance, I'd be like, no, 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 I can't dance. And they're like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, no, like I
Exactly.
really can't. And then they get you on the dance floor and they're like, oh, you really can't. And I'm like, I know, like I tried to tell you, I
And
can't
everybody's watching.
dance. All right, so we've spoken about the good stuff, the most memorable stuff, but what is one of the biggest challenges you think that you've overcome doing the job that you do?
So it's something that not a lot of people talk about. And I think I can talk about it because I work in guest services, is dealing with death on board. Before coming on board, I never experienced death, like even with family, not close family has, no one in my close family has passed away. But coming on board, it's been a completely different experience. And I mean, I remember my first official contract after the pandemic, my last 4 weeks on board, and I had been on board for like 10 months. So I'm already tired. But my last 4 weeks, I had a death every single cruise that I was there for and I witnessed. And that for me was one of the most challenging things, but you get to see how the whole thing plays out. And at first, I was not prepared for it because you don't know what to do. I mean, you're not expecting someone to die in front of you, you don't know what to do. But I had a lot of training and counseling and everything like that. So overcoming that and being able to fully immerse myself into my job and be there to support the guest because I am guest services. I'm there to support the guest during these hardships and everything like that. And I have to be able to dissociate my feelings so that I can be able to ask discovery questions, like, for example, what's the doctor's name back home, funeral home, things like that, while still being able to empathize. So that's something that when I experienced that, it was very difficult the first time. But then week after week, when it kept happening, it's something that I overcame. And now if there's any type of sensitive situation, I'm fully there for the guests. I immerse myself. I'm able to get everything that I need and still be there as a support system. So that for me has been one of the hardest challenges, but I've overcome it, and I'm still going for training and everything so that I can get better and better at it.
Because I mean, that's a really good point because when people think of applying to work on reception or guest services,
Yeah,
they don't think that they're going to be dealing with deaths
e-
on board, right?
exactly. Deaths, illnesses, things like that, and you just have to know how to be an emotional support for the
Yeah, and
guests because
that's when your people skills really come into play. I mean, to be honest, to work on reception in general, I think you have to have exceptional people skills because you've got to
yes,
deal with people yelling at you because their toilet's broken in their cabin, but you've also got to be able to comfort people if their loved one has passed away while they're on a cruise, which, I mean, God, can you imagine?
exactly. And being the first point of contact for the family, that means anything that they need, they will only feel comfortable to speak with you because you experienced this moment of unfortunate events with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a lot. It's like I say, I love my job and I love the opportunities and challenges it brings because it just means that I'm trying to make a difference in someone's life. It might be, like I say, something small, but it's meaningful to someone.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're making a huge difference. I mean, what would they do without you there, right? Because obviously, when you join a cruise ship for a contract, you go completely alone. Unless you
Exactly.
go to the same cruise ship, you don't know anyone.
Mhm.
And you're obviously not with your family and your friends back home. So do you think you have learnt to stand on your own feet because
Yes,
you work on a cruise ship?
I have. It was my first time when I went in 2020. It was my first time traveling alone out of the country. It was my first time living by myself, although you have a roommate, but experiencing a whole different country, all different ethnicities, nationalities, cultures. It's grown me as a person, I must say.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's the other thing. Whatever
Mhm.
department you work in on a cruise ship, you are working with people from all over the world. So, you might find that, let's say, for example, South Africans have a certain way of doing something that might be completely different to the ways someone from China might do something. Now, of course, different personalities come into it as well, but there can be like big cultural differences that you
Mhm.
have to navigate.
Yes, definitely. But one thing you have to just realize is that if you're able to speak to someone, for example, if you're having a lot of conflict and friction, especially with your roommate, just speak to them because they might not know. They grew up doing things a certain way. You grew up doing things a certain way. So they might not know that they are inconveniencing you and you are the same. So it's just about having the open lines of communication and saying, okay, this is what I feel that you are doing that is disrespecting me. And, just tell me about it. Is this something cultural? Is it something you're used to doing? Because I've never experienced this before.
Yeah.
And usually, 9 times out of 10, if you do it in such a way that is delicate, because you never want to make someone feel like they're doing something wrong. You want to have open lines of communication, and then you're able to resolve the issue, and you learn different cultures. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I always say it's not necessarily about what you're saying, it's about how you're saying it. Like there's a nice way to say pretty much anything that you need to say.
exactly. I agree.
Now, something I've discussed on my YouTube channel is that depending on what rank you have on board a cruise ship will depend on your privileges in terms of whether you can enter passenger areas, whether you have to stay in crew areas. Now, you work for Carnival, which is generally known as quite a relaxed company
Yes.
to work for. So, as someone who works on guest services, are you allowed to use passenger facilities? Do you have your own cabin? Like, tell us about the privileges that you get
So
on.
I am a chief striped officer and I'm a guest services supervisor. I'm
Okay.
currently sharing a cabin and we do get a lot of privileges. So I can eat at guest areas. I can go watch the shows. If I want to go to the bar, I can do that. If I want to go on excursions or if I just want to walk around in guest area, I can. However, I need to be in my full uniform, whether it's elegant night or casual night. I need to be always wearing my uniform in guest area and
Okay.
then I always need to remember that if there's a line, I need to wait.
Yes.
And
Yes.
most of the times on most of the ships that I've been on, if it's embarkation day, you can't go into the guest buffet area because it's just going to be overwhelmingly busy.
You're busy. Yeah. Wow. So full uniform wherever. So are you allowed to use the guest gym?
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite gym and only gym I like to use.
Okay. But
Yes,
you
we
don't
are
have to
allowed.
work out in your uniform, right?
No, no, no. We can wear our normal clothes. We just have to make sure we have our name badges on.
Okay.
And we can even use with our position, we can use the guest sauna and the spa facilities
Mm.
also. So
Very
that's very nice.
nice. Okay,
Nice
lovely.
benefits.
Okay, so um, as wonderful as it is working on reception, it must come with some stress. I'm sure there are days where you're like,
Mhm.
how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the stress?
So I am a very introverted person, and the way that I deal with stress, especially because I don't drink, is or smoke, is I just isolate myself, and I do a lot of meditation, a lot of praying, and usually before I sign on to contract, and this is a hack for anybody working on board, I make a list, and it's like a bullet point list of the reasons why I need this job, the reasons why I chose this cruise line. And my what to do if you want to quit list, and I go through it. And that list
That
will humble.
that is genius. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
What
kind of
a
what I do.
hack.
I isolate, I pray, and then I just go over the list and I say, okay, again, I am capable. I'm just having a bad day. It's not about me. Most of the times, it's just about the guests.
Yeah.
It's about something
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah. It's them, it's not me.
Exactly. And that's a lie I tell myself. And then after like a few days, I'm fine.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that is such a good hack because when you do have those bad days and you're like, I'm gonna quit. This is it. Um, it's almost impossible to make the list of why you're there when you're in that bad headspace. So having made that list before you even get on board, when you're still excited for for going on board and stuff, what a hack. Yeah,
Excited and broke.
that is great advice. That really is. So, how do you find the food on board? Now, obviously, in your position, you are allowed to eat in the passenger areas, but how is the food in the crew mess?
So depending on the ship, like for example, I went to one of the bigger ships that had like the bigger guest count, 6,000 guests, which means there's going to be a lot of crew members. So
Yeah.
the food was a lot better because they were catering to a wider variety of crew.
Okay.
This is now for the crew cafeteria, the crew mess, and everything like that. But usually, honestly, I really try to accommodate our requests because we come from different cultures.
Yeah.
But still, I would prefer to eat at the guest buffet because there's a wider variety and it's more food that I can pronounce and that's easier for me to digest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Do you have any advice then for people who are looking to work on cruise ships, maybe in reception, maybe in a different department, but yeah, having all the experience that you do with applying and being rejected, but now also getting the job and loving it, what advice would you give to someone who's wanting to work on cruise ships?
I would say the first thing you need to do is have that customer service experience. Even if it's being a shop teller, whatever it is, you need to have that customer experience because even if you don't have the requirements of the job, that experience will help get you through. And a lot of the cruise companies are English based. So if you can improve your English skills, that will be 100% helpful for you. And just to stay confident in yourself and believe in yourself that if you keep trying, you will succeed.
Yeah, lovely.
That,
Just
that
as
would
you
be my
did.
advice. Yes, yes. And start as early as possible because, I mean, if it took me 5 years to get on board,
Well, my love, this has been so wonderful, and you are an absolute dream, and I'm so excited for your future. You've got so
thank
much
you.
ahead of you.
Thank you so much. I really had such a great time having this interview with you.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you have any questions or comments for Anisha, please let us know in the comments section down below, and I will get back to you. And if I don't know the answer, then I will ask this beautiful lady and I will get back to you with the answer. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here, and I really hope, I mean, I just wish you all the luck on your next contract.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Bye, guys.